In this video, let's have a look at compound interest using a graphics calculator this time. So you must have your calculator handy so you can play along at home. I use a Casio calculator, but hopefully this will still make sense for whichever calculator you're using. Some terms to be familiar with. Really important to have this written down somewhere. So N is the total number of compound periods. If you've watched the previous video where we do compound interest using the formula, which is essentially what's going on behind the scenes in your graphics calculator, we went through some of these. The total number of compound periods is worked out with, I guess it's the frequency, if you like. So if it was monthly, that'd be 12 times by the years. And that's how the N is worked out. If it's annually, it's once multiplied by how many years. I, the rate of interest. Now, here's what's different to some of the other work that we've been doing. This time, in your graphics calculator, it's kept as the percentage. So if it's 6%, it's kept as 6%, not 0.06. So you really got to get your head around that one, that we keep that as the full percentage. The principal, interest, so that's how much you invest. And so that's how much, if you like, is going away from you. So you might have $2,000 to invest. And when we type it into our calculator, we actually put a negative in front of it. So if it was that $2,000, it's negative $2,000. I guess the idea is that that $2,000 is being subtracted away from your wallet and it's going away from you. So then the future value that we're trying to work out ends up as a positive number because that's what's coming back to you. PMT stands for payments. Maybe I should write that, payments. This video is at the year 11 level and we don't do payments at this point in time. That's something that comes a bit later. So we're not going to be adding in any extra payments along the way. F of V is still the final amount. And now PY and CY. So that stands for, well, CY is the number of compounds per year, hence the C for compounds and the Y for year. And I guess the PY is the periods per year. We're not going to worry about that at this point because they're not going to be different. So as you can see, it says set the same as the compounds per year. So if it was compounded monthly, then it would be 12 times. That would be what you'd put for CY. And if you type in 12 for PY, your calculator automatically feeds in the 12 for the next one down as well. So lots of things to become familiar with. Right, calculator's on. How do you find this menu? You go to the main menu if you're in your Casio calculator. It is a financial menu, which for me is menu C. Find that, enter, and then we're solving for compound interest, which for me is F2, and let's go. Okay, so here's one where it's all written out. So let's have a read through. A couple are saving for a boat, and they have savings of $15,000, so that's their principal amount. So let's have a look, that's there. In an account that pays 4.5% per annum. Notice the 4.5, kept as the 4.5, not a 0.045. How much will they have in the account after 3 years if interest is compounded? The first time round we're doing monthly, second time round daily. Notice how much stays the same between these two and how much is different. So these are all the same. Let's look at the N. Monthly means 12 times per year, hence the 12. And how many years for this question? It was 3, hence the 12 times 3. Type into your calculator 12 times 3 for the N, but you'll notice that that automatically changes it to 36. And notice over here on the daily, it's 365 times by the 3 years. Let's go through it one at a time. The payment, that they are 0. So that's always going to be 0 at this point in time. So leave that as 0. Now, future value, you can see that there's a value already there. Well, that's once we've solved for it. So that's actually the thing that we're trying to work out. So on your calculator, I'd advise you to, there might already be a number there. If not, put a 0 is fine. And then I'll show you how to come back to that in a second. And the PY, CY, they'll be the same. And so the monthly is 12 and the daily is 365. And that's your chance to itemize them, if you like, the 12 and the 365. Then you're telling your calculator what you're solving for. We're solving for the future value, the F of V. And so on mine, you've got the different ones line up depending if you're solving for N, I, PV, PMT, or future value. So this time we're solving for future value. So we would select, on mine it's F5, and then it will solve it for you. And it will put this number there for your future value, and obviously that's in dollars. So noticing again, if we compound more often, a daily compound, it ends up slightly more than the monthly one. And the bigger the amount you invest, the more impact that number will have. All right, I want to work through with you one of each type. So I'll try and go as quickly as I can to do this. Really going to drill it in for the different things that you could solve for here, and just to give you a scenario of each. You might not feel the need to read through all of these, and that's absolutely fine. So each time round you do a compound interest question using your graphics calculator, please write out down your page in the order that you see on your calculator, which is N, I, PV, PMT, FV. Now notice that these are all in capitals. Previously we've had a lowercase v for the P and the F. That doesn't really matter. P/Y and CY. Let's read through the question and fill in what we can, and then put a question mark for which one are we trying to solve. Helena is investing money in a term deposit, so the money's going away from her, and this pays 5% per year. Let's write that in. That's our interest rate, 5.2. Compounded quarterly. Aha, so how often per year does that happen? 4 times a year. So where do you write that for? Down with the PY and the CY, and also at the N. So up here is the 4 times per year. This is always a multiply at the end. Let's keep going though. We're not quite sure how many years yet. How much does she need to deposit now in order to collect $5,000 at the end of 3 years? So there's our time, the 3 years. So that's 4 times by 3. I guess I could write as equal to 12. Now she wants $5,000 at the end, in the future. So that's our future value. So let's put $5,000. Now it's a positive number because that's coming to her, that positive amount. Payment is always 0. Which one's left over? The principal value. So I put a question mark there, and then that's telling me what to solve. And in my class, this is absolutely fine. This amount of working out, showing your calculator inputs, that's fine. When you type that in, you get, we've got a negative amount because this is how much she needed to invest initially, which is negative 428,210. So answering in a sentence would be great. How much does she need to invest? Oops, haven't spelled her name right. Helena needs to invest $4,282.10. So that's where we solve for the P, the principal value. Let's do another one. Okay, compound interest. So write out your values down the side of your page. That time round, I didn't put the dash, the forward slash in between the PY, CY. That's fine. Let's read through the question. For how long must Magnus invest $4,000? So this is how much he's investing going away from him. So that's his principal amount. So let's put that in at the present value. At 6.5%, there's our rate, 6.5% per annum, compounded half yearly. Okay, half yearly. How many times a year does that happen? Each half a year, so twice. So let's put that 2 in N, and also 2 down here for how many compounds per year, for it to amount to $10,000. So that's how much he wants in the future. So that's our future value, and payments are 0. Which one are we solving for? Well, it's how many years. So it's actually this up here. It's the N we're solving for. Don't worry about that 2 that's up here at the moment with the N. We're going to come back to that. So type those values in and solving for N, which is probably F1. And what you get is 28.9. So that's how many compounding periods. Now they happen every half year. So that means, if you rounded it, it's 29 half years that this goes for. Well, how many years is that? You need to divide that number by 2 because that's twice a year happens. So I'll write that off to the side. Divide by 2, so it's about 14.5 years for Magnus, for that to for him to have invested that amount and for it to reach $10,000. Let's do another one. I think it's our last one here. All right, write the letters down the side. You'll know these off by heart by the end. So Iman deposits $5,000. There we go. We could start with that. The money goes away from them. So it's negative 5,000 for the principal. Oh, that's P of V. Into an account that compounds interest monthly. There's more information. So how often? We put it at the end and at the PYCY. 2.5 years later, there's the other part we need for our N. So how many years? The account has balance 6,000. So we're into the future now. It's now got 6,000. PMT is always 0. What annual rate of interest has been paid? Perfect. The one that I've got left over is the I, and that's what the question is asking, the annual rate of interest. Using your calculator, that solving for I, that lines up with F2, and the value that you get for that is 7.32. But what units is that? It's the percentage. So what's the annual rate of interest? The rate is 7.32%. So that's how to solve for quite a variety there using your graphics calculator. There's some questions to do now. Thanks for joining me.